Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of DGS Podcast. I'm your host Yun.
My name's Ming.
And I am Fang.
And to start off this first ever episode, we have a special release celebrating the International Women's Day.
So let's talk about how International Women's Day came to be. So it all started from many movements in both Europe and North America. In 1911, the first International Women's Day gathering held in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland was supported by people from all over the world. Then, as there was more and more influence, in 1975, the International Women's Day was recognized and celebrated for the first ever time by the UN.
I must say, it was very long for women to get some form of attention and recognition. But what formed the date that we now know for today, the 8th of March?
Yeah, great question. Some more history and then we can move on to the actual stuff, shall we? So in 1917, exactly the 8th of March, and in Russia, women working in the textile industry marched out in the street, demanding only two things, bread and peace, because of the large number of protests and support. Bolshevik and Lenin agreed to make International Women's Day an official holiday, as the date was recognized in Soviet Russia. It slowly made its way to the rest of the world, forming what we know as the International Women's Day.
Thank you very much for the detailed information. Now, celebrating a day for women is great, but some people still have the mindset that celebrating women will devalue men, and it is ridiculous. Because celebrating the existence and showing appreciation for someone doesn't make other people less important. If you go and celebrate others' birthday, that doesn't make you less influential as a person. A day like the International Women's Day is to celebrate women, like a thank you to them, because they matter as well as men.
Yeah, and that's also proven by 19th century, the quote by 19th century activist Sarah Grimke, in the context of like she's talking about future women. Like, all I ask of our brethren is that they take their feet off our neck, like which mean like all she wanted was gender equality, and it doesn't mean valuing women over men.
Now, one more point that I would like to bring up is that the fact that gender stereotypes, despite its prevalence, are being constantly challenged and reshaped every day. It's also being more evident too. Instead of thinking and considering, well, women is weaker physically, right? So they can't really do anything. A lot of that has changed. So women has taken jobs they used now to be men dominant. They have done things that used to be the men dominant, and now we don't perceive them as weird anymore. We don't see them as doing something that's out of the ordinary and should be banned or something. And because of that, we have made a lot of good progress over a few centuries.
Yeah, and talk about those progress, let's now take a look at some very cool things women made over the course of history, like Idean rocket fuel by Mary Sherman Morgan made, the rocket fuel that fueled the Explorer 1, the first ever American satellites, and the car heater by Margaret A. Wilcox in 1893, and carbon dioxide discovered by Eunice Newton Foote in 1856. And also, your ice cream maker, made by Nancy Maria Donaldson Johnson.
Let's come back to the original reason why International Women's Days were created: inequality between women and men. Firstly, let's take a glance at the highest women versus men wage. First, we talk about soccer. Carly Lloyd with 510,000 US dollar annual versus Ronaldo making 125 million dollars a year, which is 345 times the annual wage of Carly Lloyd. In basketball, the highest WNBA player, Diana Taurasi, makes 228K a year, while Stephen Curry makes 42 million in the NBA, which is 184 times the highest paid WNBA player. Women in the United States makes on average $47,299. Meanwhile, the male counterpart make about 57K a year, which makes women on average earn about 82.3% the salary of men. But progress is being made because that 82.3% figure has risen up from 62.3% in 1979, at least in the US.
So, yeah, progress is certainly being made. So, well, that's also marked the end of our first ever DJS podcast episode. So, we hope you enjoyed. brief overview of the International Women's Day and what it impacted on our society. If you would like to listen to more of our stuff, please click the follow button on the top of the page so you can receive the latest update. That's it for today. See you in the next podcast.